Hello everyone, this is ponderonweather. In this update, we're going to be talking about an August cold front as the tropics start to become active. So if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. Let's start off with this very impressive cold front for August standards with near and record lows for August 4th this morning. You can see in the chill shaded area, this is within 3 degrees of your daily record low, all the way down into Texas, much of the southeast, into the Ohio Valley, into the northeast. But even parts of Florida is actually seeing some near record lows this morning. And this blue shaded area, that is your high in your daily record. And then once you get in this darker shaded blue, that actually breaks your daily record for the day. So this cold front is making it all the way down to the deep south, which is very rare to see this time of year. So if you take a look at the actual temperatures, I mean, we've got widespread 50s across the Ohio Valley into the northeast. This is a very comfortable morning. So this is a welcome sight to see this kind of stuff. And basically, this is the peak of summer. This is your hottest time of the year. I mean, historically, it really doesn't get much hotter than this across the nation. So this is definitely a welcome sight to see 60s on the map as you wake up this morning in Texas, and even parts of the southeast and Mississippi and Alabama is experiencing some of that cooler air, which continues to filter in from the north. And it's pretty dry too. It's wiping away all of our severe threat as well. So this has been a real comfortable morning. So let's take a look at the hazard map as well. As the cold front will continue to press further south, yes, we do heat up. So the monsoon starts to settle down a little bit into the southwest, and it doesn't take long because, again, this is your hottest time of the year. So we've got excessive heat warnings again in southern California into Arizona, and then parts of the northwest, but they are going to be cooling down a little bit as we go through the week. So let's take a look at the map. Like I mentioned, this cold front is pretty impressive. I mean, how often do you actually see a cold front making it all the way into Corpus Christi, into the Gulf of Mexico, the panhandle of Florida, almost to central Florida, off the coast of the Carolina, in the first week of August? It doesn't happen that often. So this is a welcome sight to see. And yes, it's not like cold. They're all called cold fronts. I mean, the yes is a cool down, but technically by definition, there is actually no such thing as a cool front. They're all called cold fronts. And yes, it is a cool down for August standards, but it's definitely a welcome sight to see. The monsoon does settle down after a record-breaking July. Not just in July in Tucson, they picked up over 8 inches of rain, but your all-time wettest month on record. It was 4 times what you typically see for July. So that's been very heavy rain out into Arizona. So they start to dry out at least a little bit as the monsoon will shift into New Mexico and getting into portions of Colorado today. But yeah, along this boundary here, that's where our main players are going to be on later on this afternoon, with that heavier rain right along the cool front draped across the south and the southeast. So let's take a look at the actual temperature as far as high temperature goes. I mean, yeah, we're only going to get to 90 degrees in Dallas today. We won't even get out of the 90s, and we won't even get out of the 80s in Oklahoma. So this is going to be feeling really nice for at least another day or two before things slowly start to modify. But let's take advantage as long as we can with the widespread 80s and even portions of 70s into the northeast later on today. Like I said, it does heat up in the desert southwest where they've got those excessive heat warnings. The 1-teens are showing back up on the map. And yes, you do have those heat advisories into the Pacific Northwest, but we do have some cooler conditions on the way for you. So let's take a look at the smoke too. It's still prevalent. I mean, the wildfires are still there. They haven't really gone anywhere. They have settled down somewhat, with some of the rain going to be entering the picture, but it's still there. And with that north wind, unfortunately, the smoke with the northwest flow, it's dragging down some of this smoke and getting into portions of the Central Plains, even into Texas and Oklahoma. You could be seeing some of that haze out into the sky today with that northwest flow. So once the winds turn around, yes, we heat up and the smoke kind of clears away, but you're going to be dealing with some of that haze and kind of smokiness in the air, especially today. And we go into tomorrow, and it'll settle down once the winds start turning around from the south, and then lift that smoke up back up further north. But yes, once we get some rain in the picture and some of the cooler conditions, it's gonna at least put a damper on some of the wildfires, and hopefully we can get some sort of control over this situation, because it has been prevalent for at least the last 6 weeks up there. So let's take a look at the overall map for Thursday. There's your cold front, continue to press southward. I mean, this is just unbelievable for this time of year. And right along that cold front, that's where the rain's going to be. So portions, North Texas could still experience that northwest flow with some rain showers, but especially as we get into Austin, San Antonio, and even further south into Corpus Christi and Houston, right along this boundary. We always have to look for tails of fronts too with this time of year. We are getting into August, getting in towards peak hurricane season. So yeah, anytime you have a front sneaking out in the Gulf like that, you got to watch these little low pressures that spin up on the southwest tails here. So we'll be watching this like a hawk, and see if there's any signs of little low level spin, along this boundary. So then Thursday, there's the high temperatures. Like I said, we do start to modify, but it's going to be a slow creep upwards. It's not going to be just a wham all at once. It's going to be a slow modification as with the winds start to turn back around from the south, but still low 90s for much of the south is not terribly too bad, and you're still going to be in the 80s and even 70s for portions of the northeast. But the ridge starts to build, and one of the things that's going to happen is some of the cooler conditions are going to start filtering into the Pacific Northwest, as the ridge will slowly shift into the upper Central Plains. So now Montana and the Dakotas are going to be starting to heat up in a big way, and some of that ridge will start filtering down into the plains and eventually getting back into Texas as we head towards the weekend. But there's your cool front by Friday. It's by then it kind of loses its luster, and it starts to more or less stall or kind of linger, and it's not cool anymore. It transitions to more like a warm front as the warmer conditions will start to surge back up from the south to the north, and as the ridge will start to build. But we do find ourselves with some much needed rain starting to enter the picture into places like Vancouver, into Seattle, into Portland. You hadn't seen much the last 6 weeks, and we are going to be at least introducing some rain showers for you guys back in the picture with these little cooler flow off the coastal regions. But there's the cool front. Will continue to be a main player, especially along the coastal communities. But we do have another little boundary that is going to be kind of sneaking in up here into the upper Central Plains. So you're talking Minnesota, Wisconsin, and into Iowa here, into Illinois. There are going to be some rainy, cloudier, stormier conditions going to start filtering into the picture up here, and that'll eventually get into Michigan. So as we go through the day on Friday, there's your high temperatures. Like I mentioned, it starts to modify somewhat as we slowly start to build over time, just really getting back to almost average standards. We creep back up into the upper 90s, middle to upper 90s for much of the Central Plains, as the cooler air will start to resurface back here in the southeast. And then as eventually start to creep back, some of that warmer air will start to creep back as the cool front will start to come back as a warm front. But there's the cooler air filtering in from the northwest, widespread 80s for you guys. So no more hundreds for Idaho now. We're talking 80s. So that's a 20-degree drop. So we'll take that all day long. And yeah, unfortunately for much of California and the desert Southwest, you're gonna remain high and dry under that ridge of high pressure. We'll start to come back to some of the higher temperatures. But like I mentioned, with that cool front making it all the way down to the deep south, we have to always watch for tails of fronts between now and Saturday. Yeah, the EPS guidance has about a 30% chance probability of something might be sneaking, trying to develop into the Gulf. So we'll be watching this. I mean, essentially from the southeast coast all the way to the Florida Panhandle. That's where the cold front is lying. So the longer it stays out in the open waters, it's just the more susceptible it has to spinning up a quick low pressure system. But there's a tropical wave out here off the African coast. It's going to be trying to get its act together as we go through the week, and especially into next week. The National Hurricane Center has already highlighted that opportunity of something coming out of the tropics. I do expect the tropics going to be starting to heat up, especially getting into the next week and as we go deeper into August. But right now, nothing to be terribly too concerned about. It's way off here into Africa. It's got a 20% chance, over the next 5 days. And the latest update from the Climate Prediction Center has, not this week, but next week. Like I mentioned, we've been talking about this date for a while. After the 10th time frame, I do feel with the MJO coming back into the Atlantic, we're going to start ramping things up in a big way for the tropics. So they already have a moderate risk out here for that little tropical wave that's coming out of the coast. And some of the models are pretty bullish with this system. So we are going to have to watch this as we go deeper towards the middle of August, as it gets closer towards towards the United States. So that's definitely something we're going to be talking about a lot on this channel, especially as we go deeper into August and really start to ramp up into hurricane season. But as we transition into your weekend, like I mentioned, that cool front starts to modify. It starts to rebound as a warm front. We still have that boundary here off the Carolina coast where they're going to be getting a lot of heavier rain pretty much all week long. There's that flow coming in off the Pacific Northwest with introducing some rain showers near the coastal areas. And we do have that boundary coming into the upper central plains right around Wisconsin and Michigan here. That's going to bring some rain showers as well. But where the ridge is going to be under, that's where you're going to be high and dry, and you're going to starting to heat up in this neck of the woods as we go into your weekend. And then there's your temperatures as we transition to Saturday. These upper 90s are more or less near 100. That's a kind of average for this time of year, if not just slightly above average. Nothing like terribly extreme. But yeah, I mean, for August, sure, it doesn't take long. Once the winds turn around from the south and the ridge starts to come back in overhead, we start to heat up. But nothing like terribly extreme. But there's the cooler conditions starting to filter into the Pacific Northwest, and we stay below average in Idaho, and that'll eventually start to creep into Wyoming and getting into Colorado as well. So away from that ridge, as that boundary will be more or less over from the Dakotas to the Central Plains, starting to creep back into Texas. So there's your rain prospects for Sunday. The cold front's not going to be a player anymore. We're going to have to be watching this. By the end, we're going to have to be watching some of the tropics, and we'll be watching and see if there might be anything that comes along the coast. That's why they got Florida with the above average rain. So we'll start to see. We'll just watch this area over the next couple days and see if there's any type of action that might try to spin up over the next several days from that area. So let's take a look at the temperatures as we go into Sunday. There's your peak. There's your ridge coming back into play. We're not getting the 80s anymore in Texas. Sorry guys, you're rebounding. You know it wasn't going to last long, but hey, the cooler conditions, you take advantage every day you can this time of year, because hey, fall is right around the corner and we're not that far away. We're only several weeks away, and we'll be talking about fall fronts. So hang on tight. We got still several weeks left of summer, and then it's still going to be back to average, if not slightly above average, as we go back into deeper in your weekend. There's your rain prospects for over the next 7 days. It's just right along that boundary where the cool front is. That's where the heavier rains are going to be falling. We do get some help with the wildfires, or at least with cooler conditions, with some rain entering the picture back in the Pacific Northwest. We start to dry out for the monsoon season as that ridge will come back. And there's that other system that's going to be a main player for the upper central plains from Minnesota to Iowa to Wisconsin. even creeping into portions of Missouri with some, 2 to 3 inch rains over the next 7 days. And even in the Northeast, where that boundary is, where the cooler conditions fly along the I-95 corridor into Maine, we could see some above average rains as well. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Definitely like this video and leave your comments below, and don't forget to click on the other videos that I have on my channel to check out what's to come, especially with the La Nina that's probably going to be building as we go towards the fall into the winter months. So do like this video, smash the like button, and I appreciate you guys watching. I'll catch you in the next video where I protect you before and after the storm.